Hey, have you heard of the OPT model?
No, I haven't. What is it?
It's the Optimum Performance Training Model, and it's a phase-based training model created by the National Academy of Sports Medicine that any type of exercise program can be based on. They develop guidelines for core training, plyometrics, balance, etc., all using this model. What I think is the best about OPT is that it not only is applicable to all those forms of training, but the layout of the phases provide a great outline for us as athletic trainers to use for our rehabilitation plans for acute and chronic injuries.
Sounds interesting. Tell me more.
There are 6 phases that are broken down into 3 levels. The first phase and level is the stabilization endurance level, which has a focus on your muscular control and proprioception to stabilize the body part. The second level is the strengthening level, and it includes strength, endurance, hypertrophy, and maximal strength, and the last level is for power. With every new training model, there are going to be pros and cons, and I'd say that the pros of the OPT model for athletic trainers is that it ensures we are creating that good foundation to be built upon because of the stability level. It also gives us a good outline to rely on when the athletic injuries are getting kind of tricky and coaches are asking for those injury updates. In a way, it takes the guesswork out for us because we know what level the athlete is in and what they still need to progress through. The cons are probably that it is a rigid program with set phases, and some athletes and coaches might have pushback because they might see it as being too conservative of a treatment plan. But even though this con exists, we can still use it and make it less conservative by progressing and regressing athletes through the phases as we see fit. Though the model isn't rehabilitation specific, we can still use the exercises we normally use and categorize them into the phases of the model. In a study looking at post-operative rehabilitation concepts for rotator cuff repairs, the authors stated that even in the early phases of recovery, the patient can still perform exercises that improve neuromuscular control of the scapula so that they have a good foundation for when rotator cuff specific strengthening exercises are added to the program. This aligns well with the goals of the OPT stabilization level, where we want to improve strength through that stability. We could apply this idea to any post-operative rehabilitation plan as well, such as rehabilitating an ACL repair, where we want to stabilize the hip because those muscles also act on the knee and we can better set that athlete up for success later. Another study that looked at rehabilitation and return to sport after hamstring strains mentioned that one of the most important concepts of rehabilitation is neuromuscular control. I think that this shows importance for us and another reason why stabilization is the foundational level of the OPT model. The study also talked about how the athletes who do a rehab plan that begin with increasing flexibility, stabilizing the pelvis, and then specific strength training exercises showed better outcomes when returning back to the sport. And other athletes who didn't have as adequate of a rehabilitation plan experienced more reports of weakness and even changes in their biomechanics. I think what the authors said in these 2 studies support the ideas of the OPT model and how the phases are set up. They both mentioned the importance of stability before any type of strength training and how progressing in this manner leads to better results coming back from injury.
But what about athletes who have a good level of stability and are pretty strong already?
Even though it may seem that they have pretty good foundational stability and should start in a strengthening level, they are still coming to us because of an injury, so it doesn't hurt to put them in that first level. If anything, we might notice some deficits that wouldn't have been caught if we had skipped that stabilization level, and they could also progress through the level pretty quickly if they do show that good neuromuscular control.
Do you think it might make the return to play timeline longer?
While it may look that way on paper, we know that we are at liberty to progress and regress athletes as we see fit. The OPT model just gives us something to lean back on when we need a new approach for our athletes. Also, based on the studies and how the OPT model works, it's more likely that we'll have success returning the athletes to the sport with less likelihood of them getting re-injured and having to start from scratch.
It seems like a good model. I might start using it for my rehabs.